Dr. Seun Fakorede is not your average politician. He is a trailblazer who made history as the youngest commissioner in Nigeria's political history. He's not only breaking grounds, but actively reshaping the landscape for youth development and empowerment. Dr. Fakorede has been instrumental in driving positive change within his community and beyond. Joining me on the program today is Dr. Seun Fakorede. You're welcome. Dr. Fakorede, to say that I am fascinated with your story is an understatement. It's so great to have you join us on this show. And we're going to kickstart by me just saying that, you made history as the youngest commissioner in the history of Nigeria. Can you share with us the journey that led to this historic moment and the impact it has on you and, of course, by extension, your leadership?
I count it a privilege, to have the opportunity to always share my story. So my leadership journey actually started far back in the years, particularly in secondary school days. Oh. Yes, and I just, found myself in that, position where I'm always, at the forefront, leading. While in secondary school, I was the head of school. And it's quite amazing that, then I used to be very, very, very short and small statured. And it's quite interesting at the same time that it's still this small statured, short boy that they always, give leadership, positions, to play and to take. And right from then, I think, it already occurred to me that it's not particularly, yes, a function of how big, how giant or lanky, you look. It's by
virtue of your brilliance and leadership.
It's by virtue of what, it's upstairs and how you can actually, put it, into application where leadership is concerned. So that's, went through like that. I got into the university. I was actively part of the student union, in the university days. At some point, I ran for student union president, but unfortunately, I didn't win the election. And the thoughts,
but you were preparing yourself for future.
I mean, yes, absolutely. And but I'm happy that I was able to participate, in those engagements because they practically shaped, my life, where leadership is concerned. And I would say that it was just like a bedrock, for me, into doing the things that I do today. I told people then that, I told my team particularly that we might not have won the election, but we've actually made an indelible mark, in this institution. And it's quite interesting. That same year, I think, there was this, outstanding award, for leadership. It's a national award, which, I got, then as, the most influential student in Nigeria. And I was the only student in my category who wasn't the student union president. So we had about, 6 nominations. All of them, apart from me, were students union presidents of their respective institutions, UI, Unilag, Unilorin. But I was the only one who was not, like students, public office holder, as it were. And I was the one that won the award. So another thing that taught me is that leadership is not a function of, position. Sometimes you don't necessarily have to have a position before you can actually, lead an exemplary, lifestyle. And that really, formed, my perception of, so many things. So when the opportunity came to be the Honorable Commissioner for Youth and Sport Oyo State, it was just as though like I was already prepared, for it. And, in 2019 at 27, that appointment was the youngest in the history of Nigeria's democratic, rule. At 27.
Yes.
So, it never had happened before. Yes, we had the likes of, Chief Olunloyo, who was also commissioner, at 27, but that was not, during the democratic, rule. So ever since, democracy, because until we had the Not Too Young to Run, bill that was passed. That was even what gave somebody like me the privilege, to be a commissioner. Because before then, I think you cannot be a commissioner until you're 30, and above. So, but that's, Not Too Young to Run bill that was passed, it brought the age to 25. So I was practically, if not the first beneficiary of that, bill that was passed into law, becoming commissioner at 27. And I would say that it's been an amazing journey in the sense that I'm not saying it's been all rosy or, all,
it
but
can
it's
be.
been,
It cannot be all rosy.
very interesting because there were a lot of high expectations from people. A number of people said, oh, this guy young, are we sure he's going to be able to serve well?
Thomases?
A lot of them. In
Yes.
fact, in the pack, I think the doubters were took the highest percentage as it were. So but one thing I said to myself is that I don't think I'm going to look at the naysayers or the doubters. All I just need to do is to prove myself, because I know that results as a way of canceling every form of doubt,
Yes.
bias and everything like that. And I heard a lot of people say it can last 3 months in that office. Some say 6 months. What 3 months came by, 6 months, 1 year, 2 years. So there was even a time that the cabinet was dissolved, and some said, oh, he's not coming back. That's so. But then when the cabinet was reconstituted, I was returned again
So you
to
finished that
continue.
tenure?
So I finished in a full length tenure, of the administration. And I didn't just finish, I finished very, very well.
Yeah.
You can't say we can't do it because we're young. Seun Fakorede did it, he was young, and he did it very, very well. So if we can do it, then we can also do it. So I'm happy that, indeed, I'm a beacon of, light and hope, to my generation especially, and the ones, coming after us.
So you became, a point of reference.
Yes.
As it were. Now, I'm going to take you a little into something that you're passionate about, and that is your organization, Home Advantage Africa. Tell us about that, and what initiatives have you taken to address the challenges faced by young people in your environment? Let's limit it to your environment, but I wanted you to talk about that initiative.
All right, so Home Advantage Africa was actually born out of necessity. How they say necessity is the mother of invention. So I didn't win the election as the student union president, but I felt like, I have what it takes, to, be able to, still dish out what's the stuff that I have in me. And that was what gave, birth to Home Advantage Africa. So I decided that, okay, I'm going to use Home Advantage Africa as that, platform that is going to enable me to, put out the things, that I want to do. Human capital development, encouraging, my peers, letting them understand that, this thing called leadership, this thing called life, it's actually a function of a process, and you cannot, afford, to actually go for a shortcut if you really are looking at lasting, in that, process. So, and it was also born out of experiences that I've had, with a number of, young persons, like me. I pride myself in the fact that, whenever I speak, to audiences or to youths, to the glory of God, if I'm going to be humble with the numbers, I will say that I've actually, directly, impacted over 500,000, youths, whether in Nigeria or outside Nigeria, Africa. So, and I tell people that, I mean, especially when you see, a young, man getting it, or a young, lady getting it, and then you say, oh, it's not easy like that. Oh, because they are children of privilege, or, oh, because,
they have godfathers
they
and
have
godmothers.
some godfather, and mothers, somewhere. And so while I don't think it's even a crime, to have a godfather, or it's any crime to, be born into privilege, but my case is not necessarily, that way. I would have loved it, so maybe it would have, made my battles, a little bit
easier.
So, but I mean, I did not enjoy such, privileges, like that. So I practically had to fight, walk my way, through. And that's why I like to share, with people that, look, this thing is not rocket science.
Absolutely.
And, when the news broke, everybody got, to know more about Seun Fakorede. I tell people that, look, the success, the greatness that you see today, is not a function of overnight. It's a function of overtime. So, I mean, I was putting in the work when people were not looking at me, when there were no accolades, or any admonition whatsoever, to cheer me on. So, I mean, now that, the spotlight is on me, I mean, so for me, I think it's even a call, for greater responsibility, because I mean, you can afford to fail when nobody's looking, but when the world is looking at you, I mean, you have to really watch your steps.
In 2020, you won an award, the Future Award Africa.
Yeah.
Tell us about that. And while you're answering that, I also wanted to look at how this award has helped you, is helping you to build this younger generation that you were qualified to, to get an award for. And how has that been used in the development of the young people?
All right, so in 2020, I won the prize, for politics and governance, the Future Awards Africa, and that was just, in recognition of, my work as a young person, in politics in Nigeria. And for me, I would say that I really cherish, such recognition.
It is big.
Yes, it's actually very big. And looking at it from that direction, where the Future Awards, has always been, one award, that I actually hold in high esteem, and I've always, wanted, to be, a nominee, or eventually,
even if you
a
don't
win.
As long as you are nominated.
Yeah, the nomination is still a win, for me. And that's what I tell a lot of people, that, I mean, as long as you are nominated, I mean, that's like, telling you that we recognize you, but it's not everybody. There's definitely going to always be a winner. But I mean, I couldn't get it until 2020. So when it came, of course, I was already commissioner, but it still means, so much, to me. And I will say that again has actually opened a number of other opportunities and recognition, for me. And I mean, after the Future Awards, I got, I was awarded the Young Politician of the Year, by One Young World, and that's a global award. So, I mean, seemingly it's still even bigger than, the Future Awards, because the Future Awards is Africa. But if you are going to ask me, I would say that for me, the Future Awards mean much more, to me, because it is Africa.
Yes.
And I'm actually anything Africa.
Yes.
I mean, I love,
And proudly Nigeria.
Yes, I'm proudly Nigeria. So, I mean, that's, I would say for me, it's like, my most cherished, award, because it is actually Africa. And, it's also something that I'm actually trying to promote amongst our people, that we should learn how to appreciate our own things. I mean, you see a number of people that perhaps, if they have not gotten an international or global award, they are not fulfilled. But, I mean, you've gotten so many awards in your country, in Africa. So it doesn't mean so much to you until you get, that. And I think it's actually a wrong mentality. And sometimes, we're always looking for validation in the wrongest, places. So it's also something that I'm also trying to champion, that let us, respect, our own institutions. If we could actually put, as much work into what we're doing for, our communities, then I think, we're actually going to get to that level where our own institutions, mean so much more, to us than those, coming, from outside.
Yeah, how do you think, let me just rephrase that. How do you consider this recognition impactful in governance reforms and policy initiatives by you?
Okay, so for me personally, I would say that those recognition for me, it's even though I don't, seek validation, from outside, but I would say that, for me, it's also a motivation, to continue doing what, I'm doing, because sometimes this work can actually, be so engrossing and, overwhelming, too, that, sometimes you just need, that, whisper or, people saying, Seun, we see you, well done. I mean, and, sometimes that can actually even come at the right time to boost, your strength and your energy again. And so for me, those recognition further prompted, me, or further prompts me to want to keep, doing more and to give in and more, because I know that these awards I'm not the only politician that we have in the nation, in the country. I'm not the only young guy. After me, there have been a number of other young, appointees that have actually, been appointed into the system. But I would say that I'm actually, one of, the what's the word that I want to use a particular, maybe I don't want to say the star boy or the
you led the pack.
Yeah, so
something like that.
I practically led the pack, and opened up the vanguard,
yes.
for a number of young people, to come in. So those, recognition are actually so beautiful, because they encourage, me, to want to do more and to keep doing whatever I'm doing, because obviously people are watching. And it's because they are watching that they can actually call you out of the pack to say, we want to recognize you.
So has there been any kind of reform initiatives, anything that you've pushed forward concerning youth?
Yeah, so a number of them. I remember vividly, one out of many, during the protest, that we had, the End Police Brutality, protest. I remember vividly that the one that happened, in Ibadan, I actually, was part of it. And, I actually joined, the people, to lend out, our voices that, okay, this has to end. We have, some institutional, reform that has, to be done. And, the government needs, to actually hear us. I got a number of calls when people saw me as early as, 7 a.m. out there and say, Seun, you're not this Seun Fakorede that was, that we know before 2019. No, don't forget that you're now, a politician, a public office holder. So you shouldn't be seen protesting. It's like, you are like the government is protesting against it. And I told them that, well, for me, I think, I see it, from a different perspective.
Yeah, we even have some governors that joined.
Yes, my governor joined,
to
eventually.
Let them know that,
so I was appointed Honorable Commissioner for Youth and Sport. And in my own understanding of my role, and my job description is to represent, the young people, the youth's constituency. And I told, people when I got in that I want to be a loudspeaker. And what does a loudspeaker do? It simply echoes and amplifies what the speaker is saying. So in this context, I am on the part of the government, the speaker, for the I'm meant to amplify what the government is saying to the people, and on the part of the people too, I'm also meant to echo and amplify whatever they are saying to the government. So I'm like, in the middle, like the intermediary between, the people and the government. And I say, if my people are on the streets protesting, then I should be part of them to listen to their agitation, so that I can
that you
actually
can
be
take
able
it
to
back.
give an accurate
Yes.
presentation to the government. So I'm not going to sit down in my office with air conditioners and a very nice environment, and then I'm going to now be following on Twitter or going on the TV to watch I'm going to be there.
So it's always nice to know that what you've garnered over the years, you've been able to put into good use by impacting on the youth in your community and, of course, in Nigeria, in Africa at large. It will not be an overstatement if one alludes to you, the shining star. You got a recognition for Irawo Odua by the Ooni of Ife. How has this impacted on, number one, your personality, your views, dealing with the youth? Tell me about that. How, when you received that recognition, what was it like? And then what you were actually given, the shining star.
Yeah, so I mean, just like every other award or recognition that I've received, they actually it's always like responsibility,
Yes.
for me, because I mean, if they call you Irawo Odua, if they name you Irawo Odua, a shining star, it means that you have to always, live true, to that, tag. So it requires a lot of work, from your own end, and it requires, a lot of, diligence, to actually sustain, that image as it were. So, and I mean, of course, definitely it brings, a number of attention, to you. I remember when I was recognized, by the His Imperial Majesty,
yes.
the Oni of Ife. We were just, 3, and it was a special, recognition.
Wow.
So, and I was the only one, who was, the boy. I mean, amongst, the other 2 people were actually, quite older. And so for me, again, it was, a call, to serve, as it were, and then to represent, my people so well. So I always count them, a privilege, whenever I have the opportunity to represent or to be recognized, for the work that I'm doing. And I would say that, truly, I'm a full-fledged, cultured and cultural boy. So it means so much when the Oni of Ife, who I want to believe when it comes to the Yoruba culture, is the chief custodian of that tradition, and when he looks at me and says, okay,
you're deserving of this,
you are deserving of the Irawo Odua, and it's not like there's no 2 Irawo Oduas. As far as I'm concerned, I'm still the only Irawo Odua who has been given that opportunity. So I always like to say that I pray that our good God continues to guide me, so that whatever it takes for a star to shine, that it continues to grant me that essence.
So I'm going to take another question in that line. In your experience, how do you consider traditional values to modern day fast-paced growth of the youth of Nigeria?
So I would say everything boils down to wisdom. And I like to say that wisdom is the understanding of difference and the ability to anticipate consequences. And whether we like it or not, yes, the world is growing, modernization, civilization, I mean, is growing so well. I'm a fan of civilization. I'm a fan of digitalization. So, but at the same time too, we should also learn to balance it up, with our culture, with our tradition, so that we don't get lost in these things. Because I mean, sometimes if we don't know where we're coming from, I mean, to get to the destination that is our true destination might be a bit, dicey. So I would, say that there should actually be a balance, between, our old, customs, and tradition. I also believe that there are a number of them that should be abolished. That is not, in tandem with, this current dispensation of what life, should be, now. So, but at the same time, too, I believe that there should be some sort of, fusion, between the old and the new.
You're still watching Think Nigeria, and my guest is Dr. Seun Fakorede. In your opinion, what are the most pressing challenges of facing the youths of today, and how do you think we can surmount them?
So, I mean, just like every citizen, whether young or old, I think, we all have, common challenges. But what I see that would be a very, very easy way of mitigating these challenges is when we have, more young persons on the table where decisions are being made. Because, I mean, for every one of us, when there are challenges, a number of times, it's those people that are privileged enough, to be where solutions are being, should I use the word distributed, that actually enjoy, it's, most. So, and if there's anything, when we have more young people on the tables where decisions are being made, we know where, the shoe oughts, because we are actually practically in the shoes. So it's easy for us to say, oh, this is where it oughts, or this is where we need, some sort of, intervention. So, but if you don't have a good number or a fair representation of the young people on the table where, things are, being distributed, allocated, it's difficult for you to be able to meet us at the point of our needs, because a number of times you might think that, what they want, is maybe, maybe good wristwatches, but we are saying that we don't need wristwatches. We just want clothes, to put on, and you have wasted resources. And sometimes, these decisions can actually be done innocently, could be taken innocently, because you really do not know. So, and I think because what my coming on board as Commissioner for Youth and Sport, did in Oyo State was he made the youth closer to the government and the government closer to the youth, because it's easy for me to say, sir,
yes,
well, it's good that we want to do this. However, I think this is what the people, the youth, would appreciate the more. And the governor in his what's it called, will say, okay, Seun, are you sure that is what you guys want? And say, okay, look, let's have it that way. And I'm happy that a number of things has actually happened just because of the fact that Oyo State had a young
they could relate
guy, yes, that
Nigeria,
can actually represent them.
40-year-olds saying that they are youth.
I mean, I think it's just quite interesting and challenging, because, and it's everywhere, because I remember, assuming office as commissioner, and I called for youth leaders meeting, of my political party, and there was a particular person that was in attendance. I mean, sincerely, this man was, like 61, and he was the youth leader of his,
a youth leader at 61.
And, when I jokingly said, sir, I heard that, you are actually 61. And this, gentleman, looked at me and said to me that, the thing about youth is actually not in the age, but in the heart.
I like that.
And I'm like, oh my God, he's still not right.
He's not right.
But, what can I do? The system, brought him in place, but it's just one of part of the challenges that we, face when, there is no organized institution. If there was an organized institution, if things, are actually going the way it ought to go, I don't think any, reasonable 60-year-old will still be fighting for a slot to be a representative of the youth. It's misplaced priority. Like, if you have spent your youth well, your old age, you shouldn't now be trying to lobby for what your children or your grandchildren.
Square pegs and round
I
holes.
mean, so, but it's unfortunate that there has been a number of distortions, you know, and that's why things are the way. So if you are 60 and you say you are a youth, I mean, so...
kind of missed it, huh?
so, I mean, so, but it's interesting because in this life, I mean, in this just barely 30, 10, 3, you know, decades of, you know, existence, I would say that I've seen, you know, boys at, you know, 40, and I've seen men, you know, at 14, you know. So, so for me, yeah, it's not necessarily, you know, so much, you know, about, you know, the age, as it were, but it should be used in,
it must
you
be
know,
relative.
more.
It must be relative.
Because
you know, it's a far cry if you have a 61-year-old claiming to be the youth leader. I mean, come on. So, and I think this is some of the, for me, I ask you about the challenges, and you know, for me, I think this is one of the challenges. We need to get the right people in the right places. And that makes life easier, it makes the job easier, and of course, we move forward. Dr. Fakorede, it has been a fantastic time and a great pleasure to have you come on the show today. Thank you for your insights. I hope Nigerian youth, Africa at large, will, you know, take one or two things from what you have shared with us today and look for a better leadership future for all of us, particularly them. We're gone beyond youth now. Huh? It's been another interesting time on Think Nigeria. It's no gainsaying that there are so many unsung heroes contributing positively inside and outside their communities. Dr. Seun Fakorede is another shining star and beacon of hope in Nigeria and has started to blaze the trail of greatness. I am Siju Alabi, asking you to keep it real. Bye for now.